Hi there, my name is Lori Weiler, and this is my presentation on microaggressions in media. I decided to choose a clip from one of my favorite TV show, Friends. I could think of a few different episodes or relationships or seasons where there were some microaggressions that occurred, and I saw this clip on YouTube and thought this was a great dynamic on where it's very hard for this new relationship that's formed to kind of navigate the gender norms and biases that go into it. So I chose this clip to kind of discuss and talk about. Just a little bit of background, just in case you are not familiar with Friends. In this clip, you see Ross and Carol. Carol is the woman who is pregnant and is sitting on the bed. And they were once married and are now having a baby. So Carol's pregnant, and that's why they're at the doctor. And now they are no longer a couple, but Carol and Susan are now a couple. So Susan is the woman with long hair and in that pink dress, and they are now a couple as well. So Ross has this is a new thing for Ross, and they're trying to figure out things. This is a new family dynamic. They're trying to figure out how each person's going to take on this new role and how they're going to play a part in this relationship, and how they're going to be able to support the baby as the baby comes and in the future. And so there's a lot of unknowns and a lot of things that are happening in this new dynamic and new relationships that are being formed and kind of being figured out. So I noticed a few microaggressions in this clip, which is why I chose it. I figured there were some obvious ones, some really clear one, a clear one that started out the clip, but then there were some not so obvious ones that I wanted to discuss as well. So the first obvious one is I think the one that everyone would kind of catch on is the fact that Ross assumed that the doctor is male. I think this is a pretty common assumption, even into our culture. This show was created in the 90s, so 20, 30 years later, that we assume that doctors are male, and that the gender norms are that doctors are male because they know more and have more knowledge, and they can go to school and all these things, and that's not really the case. And this clip shows that Ross just kind of assumed that the doctor was male without even really giving it a chance, that he could have thought, oh, this doctor could be female. The next thing that I saw, that this may be a little bit of a stretch, I'm not sure, but it was kind of the interaction between Susan handing Carol the drink, and Ross thought that she was handing him the drink. So maybe it was kind of along the lines of like, oh, he thought that she was serving him and giving him a drink, and really it was that she was trying to give the drink to Carol, who's pregnant, who may need some sugar, may need some drink, may need something to fuel herself. But Ross kind of just assumed, hey, this woman's serving me, or this woman may be handing me a drink. So again, I may think this may be something that's unintentional or subconscious for Ross. But I do think it kind of plays into a little bit of a role of, oh, this woman's here to serve me, or this woman's here to help me, or whatever, play into the kind of gender norms that this scene's kind of playing on. And the last microaggression that I noticed is that when it comes to talking about the name for the baby, Ross automatically assumed that the baby was going to take on his name as the father. And again, this is still a gender norm, or a gender, like a cultural and a gender and societal norm in our world still to this day, or in our society to this day, where the male typically gives the child the name, their name, and this isn't always the case. This can't be assumed still this day, because again, these dynamics happen more and more, where there's many family members or many parents involved. And in this case, there are different parents wanting to be a part of this baby's life, and different dynamics. So it was wrong for him to assume that automatically his name was going to be the only name and thrown into the bunch without including or even talking with the other women who are part of this baby's life and who are committed to raising this baby and being a vital part of being the next several and decades part of this child's life. I believe that these microaggressions that we see in this scene are micro insults. Ross, I inherently is not a bad person. I do not think he's a bad person. He doesn't mean to hurt these women. Of course, there's a kind of a conflict between him and Susan. They may say some things back and forth, but ultimately it's not out of hate or out of he's not trying to hurt them when saying these things, but he does kind of make these assumptions and these biases unintentionally, and it shows how he really feels about the gender roles and the gender norms that he's the opinions and views that he has on them, and the biases that he carries with him, and it really shows in the beginning of the relationships in the relationship here of what he thinks about these women, especially Carol, not knowing her and just kind of being thrown into a relationship with her, into a friendship with her, that he really sees women as less and sees them as having certain roles or certain norms that they must fit into the mold, and Susan doesn't fit that, so he doesn't get that at first. And again, many of these comments are subconscious and unintentional, and I don't think it's meant to really like completely hurt their feelings, but he does say them, and it does show his intent and his heart behind it. So each of these things that he says and each of these microaggressions that we just went over really show the heart behind him and the heart of what he's really thinking about for these women and why he says these things. To continue on with the previous slide, in our textbook it states that microaggressions are oftentimes reflections of implicit bias, racial and gender attitudes and beliefs that lie outside the level of conscious awareness. So again, I don't think that Ross is a bad person. I would actually argue that he's very sweet and becomes such a great father, but his microaggressions are invisible to him, and he doesn't really see or realize what he's saying and what he's doing can be hurtful and can be wrong to say, and can hold a lot of weight. And as the series goes on, he's called out on what he says. Susan kind of approaches him here and there, and his friends sometimes call him out on some things that he says, and he learns and he makes amends and grows into a better person because of his friends and Susan and people around him willing to say, hey, some of the things you are saying are not right, and some of the actions you're doing are not right, some of the choices you're making are not right, and he becomes a better person because of it. He's able to realize that his previous biases, his previous opinions are not the greatest, and able to grow from that, and able to form better relationships and a greater relationship with Susan because of it. So some interventions that can be done in these types of situations. Again, this is a TV series, so we can't talk on too much on maybe of how he maybe have been counseled or all these things, but we can see throughout the series that, one, he's often called out on the things that he does, the things that he says, specifically by Susan or Carol, and also by his friends around him. They may tell him, hey, this is not right what you said, or hey, this is the choice that you made is not the right one. And I think that's a great thing about Friends, the series, is that it really shows you that these people are imperfect people. They make wrong choices, but the whole point of the series is showing one another that your friends are there to build you up and support you and show you that you can be on the right path and get back on that right path. And so his friends are there to educate and support him. They're all there to help him make those right choices and build that relationship with those around him and fix that relationship with Susan. And in the end, we see that him and Susan actually really end things on great terms, and that he's able to see things differently, that he's able to accept things that he may not have been able to accept before, that he's able to kind of leave his biases and opinions behind, and realize that things are different and that that's okay, and he's able to grow into a better person because of the microaggressions that he's learned and have been brought into the light, and he's grown into a better person because of that, and because they have been shown to him, and that he's able to grow from them.